Why did this war start?
So they were making the ground, preparing the ground for the creation of Israel inside Palestine.
So you think this is a proxy war?
The problem is that the nuclear issue was never been the issue.
How the media is shaping the narratives around the war.
Briefly, let me explain what BENNETT Dialogues is. It's a format, it's a platform where we have specialists from the world of geopolitics, media, law, and management come and address students. He's a well-known and well-recognized TV news journalist with over 20 years of experience as an anchor, covering some of the most defining news stories of the last 2 decades. He's currently managing editor of Times Now, where he's responsible for the editorial strategy of the channel. Dr. Waiel Awwad, again, is a very, very senior journalist and West Asia expert and an India-Arab relations advocate. Last but not the least, Dr. Awwad is a trained medical professional with an MBBS from the University of Delhi and a PG in anesthesiology. That's always complicated. So a big round of applause for Dr. Awwad.
So thank you, Dheeraj, for the lovely introduction of both Dr. Awwad and myself. So obviously, the topic for today's discussion is around Iran, the war that's happening in Iran. Obviously, all of you journalism students, mass media students know that there is a war going on. But why is such a war going on? And as Dheeraj said, how long will it last? What is the end game here? So what we'll do is with Dr. Awwad, I'll just set it up, what are the broad contours of this war? And then you can jump in and you can ask your questions. Like I said, I hope everybody can hear me. I think, all right, we'll take the mic. Okay, I think this is better. So just quickly, I'll sort of round off what I said. What we'll do is we'll set it up with a few questions, 3 or 4 questions about the war, why it's happening, who are the main players, what's the end game here with Dr. Awwad, and then I'll throw it open to the floor and you can ask questions to Dr. Awwad. So Dr. Awwad, first of all, tell us the war in Iran. It's been over a month now. It's going to be a month and a half. Why did this war start? What were the principal reasons, as you see it, for why this war started? And explain it to a Gen Z audience.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and thank you for the introductions and good afternoon or good morning. I think good afternoon, everybody here in this room. I'm very happy to be at the university. I was eager to join you sometime earlier this month, but it was postponed. But thanks to the Heritage and to the department that I am here. Zakka is an old friend of mine and I always applaud him on his presentation and his discussion and depth knowledge of the region. The reason why West Asia, we are having continuous war in the West Asia, and people wonder why it happened, why this part of the world cannot live in peace. I think the reason, Zakka, is the moment that after the First World War, I'll just give you a small briefing, so I will then tease you with the questions I wanted to raise. I think what happened before the First World War, we had the Sykes-Picot Treaty, which we call it 100 years ago, where the French and the British colonials and advocates have told the Arab that if you are out of the Ottoman Empire, if you support us, we revolt against them, we will take you into, we'll give you independence. So we joined hand against the Turkish Empire. Then after that, instead of giving us independence, they divided us into 19 states. And the Arab world was divided and was occupied by the French and the British. But even the Caesar, Russia was there, the Soviet Union. But because of the revolution in the Soviet Union, they pulled out. So it was French and the mandate for the French and the British who have taken this. They have taken charges of the Arab world. And then after the Second World War, in fact, I wanted to bring for you, Palestine was part of the Arab world, but because of the British mandate to the Israelis, to the Jews, that they wanted to give them a state within Palestine, Palestine was put under the mandate of the British colonial forces. So they were making the ground, preparing the ground for the creation of Israel inside Palestine. So the Second World War, it happened post-war, and most of our leaders who have come to the Arab world, they came on the tanks of the colonial power. They never went to serve the countries in a democratic way of setting up like India did. And unlike the Pakistanis or India was different from the system of democracy. We didn't have that much, but we were aspiring for a better life, and we thought that this is the situation could be better. Now, over the years, Israel is expanding at the coast of the Palestinian, had a war with the Arabs. So basically, they have a dream, 2,500. According to the book, they follow, I don't know which book, because there are lots of forged books, Talmud or the Old Statesman. They said it was written 2,500 years, that this is our territories from Euphrates to Nile, and that is how we are. And, we wanted to be in this part of the world. So the expansion is from Euphrates to Nile is a dream which is now implemented, which means that it's including Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, one third of Saudi Arabia, and 50% of Egypt. That is the plan. So over the years, they started having war with the Arab world, and recently the Israelis become so powerful now, and they said the regional powers are a threat to Israel expansion, and extensional threat, and Iran considered to be one of the last blocks in the Israelis' ambition of expansion. So therefore, could be one of the reasons. The main important reason for the colonial power is the discovery of oil and gas in the region, which make it a lust for all the greedy world that they wanted to occupy. That I can give you this briefing.
So there are three principal players in this war. There is America and Israel, who are waging this war, Iran, which is the country against whom this war has been started, and there are, of course, the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., who've been affected by this war, who've been attacked by Iran in this war. What are the positions of these three entities or these three players as far as this war is concerned?
See, for American and the Israelis, it is already understood the control of the oil, control of the passage of all the international corridors of global trade, and for Israel to keep on expanding at the cost of the neighbor, and that's what's going on. For the Arab world, we don't have any project. Unfortunately, we're divided house. Interfighting is there. We have never had an independent or a security framework that we could survive. For Russia, it was part of the superpower games. We should not look at what's happening in the world, in particularly in Arab world, as in isolation of the global power, fights. So I believe it is the American and the Russians and the Chinese having a fight on the passage on the oil because of their competition and who will be able to lead this world and take this part of the cake and divide it.
So you think this is a proxy war? The actual war is being fought between America and its allies and partners on the one side, and China and Russia on the other.
We can divide it into two. One, I call it regional war, which is as I said, for the ambition of Israel and destroying, destabilizing, disintegration of this. It's already written in books, and you can see Clean and Break, and Yannon also written it in the security of Israel in the 21st century, 19th century. It is already written there, so you people are having more access to research paper. The regional war is fought, and the international war now with President Trump doing the piracy, countering Iranian measure of closing Strait of Hormuz, is a clear indication that the global crisis is already being set up. That is why you can see who's suffering. It's India, China, South Korea, Japan. Most of the countries who import oil from this part of the world are paying the price. For the United States, the sole beneficiary of this war, by the way, arm industry, artificial intelligence. America is the largest exporter of oil currently. So therefore, it's good. It's a greedy world. They can make money out of the war.
So before I open this up to our students here for questions, so there are two things that are still the stumbling block to some kind of a lasting peace or an end to this war. One is the nuclear question. The Americans and the Israelis say Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon. So how does that resolve itself? And two, now Iran is using the Strait of Hormuz. It's controlling the Strait of Hormuz, and that's causing a whole lot of problems for the rest of the world. America has also imposed a blockade. How do you see these two issues being resolved?
I think I want to ask everybody, all of you here, if a country is a nuclear state, if a country undeclared nuclear state called Israel, which have more than 200 nuclear heads, and if a country thinking maybe, according to international community, international atomic energy agency said Iran never had a military nuclear program. Till date, by the way, they have not said a single word. You can go to their research. How can you legitimize two countries attacking a country because they are thinking they may have a nuclear bomb?
No, but they've been enriching uranium. It's not just that they were thinking.
This is where we do the mistake. In 2015, when they signed the deal, Zakka, you remember, right? P5 plus. Iran was given only 3.6% enrichment of uranium. From 2015 to 2018, Iran never, because according to the agency, they are supervising, they're watching. Then American president come, he said, I don't like Obama, he's colored, he's a black, I don't like him, so I'll go for a better deal. Revoked this deal, got $100 million donation from the Israelis, IPAC, and he went for it. And then he failed. Then he now went for the war because of some other reason. I can talk about it. The problem is that the nuclear issue was never been the issues. I tell you, because enrichment of uranium, why don't you go and attack North Korea? The 6 countries were discussing with North Korea. American was part of it, including China, Japan, South Korea. All of them were on the table sitting together, and the United States pulled out in 2008. And then he said, I'm going nuclear. So you provoked the country to go. And secondly, you went for a war in Iraq, right? I was embedded with the American journalists, with the American as an embedded journalist, and I was captured in Iraq. And they were deceiving that this is a world of mass destruction. It's a world of mass deception. There was no war, and then they lied to the world and they say, oh, we lied, but we won. That's not the way it took. You killed 500 million Iraqis. You killed 500,000 children, and you say this is worth it, Madeleine Albright's sake. So what I'm trying to say is, it never been the pretext of the oil. You remember the nuclear. I'm saying when the American and the Iranian in Geneva were talking, there was a discussion. The foreign minister of Oman said we are a breakthrough. We reached a deal. This national security advisor of UK was there. He said we never expected the deal to happen. And then the next day went for the war. So war is to weaken Iran for the other ambitions of our neighbor who think that this part of the world existed 2,500 years ago. But I can tell you, my city, Aleppo, is 13,000 years old. It's in Guinness Book. Jericho in Palestine is 9,000 years. It's also in Guinness Book of Record. Damascus, the oldest inhabitant capital in the world, 10,000 years ago. Then we existed before even religion come to the region.
So before we open this up, the second part, which is the Strait of Hormuz, which has now become the huge problem. It's a big headache for the rest of the world, including for India. How do you see that resolve itself? The Iranians have said they're not going to open it. The Americans are saying we'll continue with the blockade. What happens?
Well, I think there was let me give it a lighter note. There was a fellow who had an accident. He met with an accident, and the doctor was on his bedside, and he said, I have a good news and bad news for you. He said, what is the bad news? He said, you lost your 2 legs. We have to ampute your leg because of the incident. He said, then what is the bloody good news left? He said, we found a buyer for your shoes. So this is how it is. Both sides are losing. This is the most strategic part of the world. Before the war, there was Strait of Hormuz open. There was no problem at all. Everybody was passing, no trouble. And the things were moving smoothly. And the United States attack a country, you change the maritime law. By the way, there is a UN convention, as you know, the Sea of the Law. Iran signed it, but never ratified. United States never signed, never ratified. Okay? So now, Iran said, you are in war. How can I allow warship to come into this place that is the most strategic part of the world? You have more than 90% of the oil trade goes from this part of the world. Most of the GCC countries are there. So there is no question. Instead of finding a problem because the American president, he went into countering this and creating more global problem by having a kind of a blockage away from the Strait of Hormuz against the Iranian ship. So how can you expect me to open in a good intention when you are not allowing my ship to pass through? I think this logic has to be applied for a president who can speak 10 tweets contradicting himself in 1 hour.
Okay, let's open this up. I want a show of hands. Yeah. Okay, sure. So let's talk about India's role and I guess the role of Pakistan as well, because now They're going to be playing host to the ceasefire talks the second time around. Let's talk about India's role in terms of. So there is one view which says India was not engaging with these powers enough, or India is not putting itself out there enough. A lot of our ships are still stuck. I think about 9 or 10 ships have come. There are about 14 or 15 that are still stuck. How would you evaluate the government of India and the Ministry of External Affairs performance in these last 40, 50 days?
I think India, I always am a very strong advocate of India taking a proactive role in West Asia. And I am always on every channel, you see my report, my writing, everything I speak on those lines, even interviewing Indian prime ministers from Rajiv Gandhi time, except till the prime minister currently, I interviewed all Indian leaders. I always say that India, having the major loser in this war, the major stakeholder in terms of oil security, in terms of food security and diaspora. India have 10 million Indians living in the Gulf country, 14 million people visit annually. You have more than $50 billion revenue every year. So India, why are you shying away? I mean, I don't know if India support Palestine means India supporting the Palestinian. India will be more Palestinian, anti-Israel because Israel giving you the open. No. I think India adhere to the international law, adhere to UN Charter, adhere to UN Security Council, stick to it. Don't go beyond that. If you are not wanted to take a camp, either right or left, like you have done in the non-aligned movement, okay, you can start a new camp for yourself. You can be the leader in the world and take a lead that to make sure that Indian, I mean, as an Indian myself, I mean, I may be, let me speak as an Indian because I think I'm Indian by naturalization as I spent all my life here. If I have this much stake in the region, I will go to the door of the President Trump and Prime Minister of Israel, stop this war. There's no question about it. Forget about my relation with you. My people are having a problem. You don't have to go and have a covert talks to them. You wanted to create something else. That is one of the major issue India should have taken. India have different view. That's Indian position.
What about the role of Pakistan? Because the prevalent view, the majority view in India has been that here is a state sponsor of terrorism, a country that is responsible for killing hundreds of, if not thousands of Indians over the years, is now trying to play peacemaker. The irony of it doesn't seem to be lost.
Zakka, I always say that the tragedy of the subcontinent that by creation of Pakistan. The partition of subcontinent is meant that Pakistan has to be part of the future thinking of a colonial power. The empire of Britain, which has been existed and doesn't have the parameters of being an empire, could create an empire and occupy the world, but they were also the most shrewd person in making a future wars. For me, I mean, I know people may not like my views in the other side of the world, but I always say that Pakistan creation is meant for the colonial power to take advantage. They have done it. Even the defense minister of Pakistan said it openly. We've been rented to the United States for 30, 40 years during the jihadi culture in Afghanistan. He didn't hide it from us, right? So now giving them the option, I tell you why. There are two reasons for it. One is that the American, after this war, Iran attacked Oman, attacked Qatar, attacked all the mediators. So definitely none of the Arab countries will be happy to come and join for the talk. The second part is you needed a military person who have a trust with the Iranian, and you needed to bring them together. So Pakistan was chosen by the American. And the American always have the soft heart for the Pakistani, by the way. Don't ever think that even during the partition, you know, that the American nuclear ship was during Bangladesh in 1971. They were at the Bay of Bengal. So they have never, but I don't know why India think that they are too close to the United States. I have no clue why this goes in the mind of the policymakers. You don't need. So therefore, in Pakistan role is to bring to be from a facilitator to a mediator. Now they are currently, and I give you another important point here also. Don't forget that Pakistan having a strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia, and if America wanted to win this war, it has to be a foot on the ground. You cannot win the war from the sky. There's no way out. So to put foot on the ground, then you have Pakistan. And Pakistan, They have already sold Afghanistan to America, and Parvez Musharraf said it. You say we will remove Pakistan from the map if you don't open the space to remove the Taliban. And luckily, the Americans spent $1 trillion, and after 20 years of removing the Taliban, they brought the Taliban back. And the similar things in Iran. They removed Khamenei by killing him and killing his children. They brought his son, the Khamenei. So America doesn't have the strategy, and Pakistan, I think, part of the American strategy in the region, which I feel that we still have lots of things to talk about Pakistan.
Okay, so let's open this up. Can you sort of can we have a show of hands? Whoever wants to ask a question, introduce yourself. Also, somebody will have to pass on a mic. So,
Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Moini and I am a second year student, Mascom. So, my question is India initially condemned the attacks by Hamas. Do you think this shaped global perception of India as leaning towards Israel?
So, good afternoon, sir. My name is Om, and I'm from second year of mass communication. And my question to you is that so, how does this conflict impact India's economy, especially when it comes to things like oil prices, trades, and overall value to the people?
And my question is, what role does media play in shaping public perception globally through audio, visual, and social media?
okay, that's a great question. So, let's start with the first question, which is October 7th. India was one of the first countries to come out, condemn. I think Prime Minister Modi was one of the first leaders to speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu. And the sentiment was overwhelmingly that Israel is justified in what it's doing until it became unconscionable.
Well, a killing of any civilian anywhere in the world, every country has to condemn. That was one of the part. But let me say, did really the war in Palestine started in the 7th of October? I mean, even 2 days before the attack of the 7th of October, there was a major operation by Israel in Gaza Strip where 15 Palestinians were killed. And it was already violations even after the withdrawal of Israeli troops and the settlement from surrounding Gaza. It has always been besieged. It is the largest concentration camp in the world, besieged from the sky, from the air, from the land, from the sea. And these people, even I can tell you, I mean, I'm covering this region. It has been the most affected, the most congested part of the world in 265 square kilometers of 2.6 million people living in misery. So this was a very difficult and harsh life. When you make the life of the people difficult, you will tell yourself either I should run away, which they don't have a place to run, or you will kill yourself and kill the others. So I think by attacking Palestine, most of you don't know who are the Gaza people. Gaza people are not the Gazan than the Palestinian. 75% of the Gazan people are actually from the rest of the part of Palestine, survived the killing of Israel. So basically, you have all the Palestinian in this. So let me ask anyone, somebody come, you bring them, they say Holocaust on their life, they have been put on this jail, and then you give them shelter in your home because the European started the Holocaust on them. After 50 years of living with you, you have a Zionist movement in the region which is expanding at the cost of Palestinian. You come to your home, you find they changed the key, you are standing outside, they say, no, this is our home, promised land. So that is the intention. So permanent provocation, perpetual provocation for permanent wars. That's why the Palestinian. So I don't believe that it started in the 7th, but India, for example, responded fast. Okay, but what about the killing of the Palestinians? 70,000 people killed. Do you think this is worth it? 20,000 still under their press. Then what? You have more than 40,000 people, children and women died. Whoever, you cannot move, you are hard to it. That is why you have this war again in Iran.
So the second question was about how is India affected by this war in Iran? Obviously, oil is the most predominant commodity that India imports from there, and India is affected by that. India has been saying that the strait needs to be opened, it needs to be free, etc. But what are the sort of down the line implications for India because of this war?
India, for us in the Arab world, we consider India as a natural extension into West Asia. Even only barring the 77 years ago when Pakistan created, it was part of the West Asian extension, right? And I think it's the only country in the world where we call Middle East West Asia is India. So therefore, you are a natural partner with us. We have a relation with you for centuries, thousands of years. 5,000 years ago, People from my country, Syria, from Arab countries, traveled all the way to Kerala, to all the way to the Indian shore, to Gujarat, exchanging, a culture is not only parting with the food and goods and all. It's also culture. You give us the zero, we give you also the other thing. And Nala Chapa and this university, Nalanda, all these universities of India carrying the scholars of the Arab world. So we have a strong relation. That's why I'm an advocate of keep that history behind you, build a new contemporary history to make it better relation. So India having 10 million people, this is a soft power. You have 10 million people in the Arab world. Of course, you will suffer because of the oil. 60% of your oil come from there. So if you stop, you think America is suffering? America told the people when they went to Ukraine war with Russia, they said, okay, European, cut the oil of Russia and buy it. Macron was crying on the TV and saying, you're selling us the oil 4 times than the Russian. Then what kind of a partnership you are having? So I think India enjoyed a very good relation with the Arab world, and I don't see India should not take a proactive role in making sure that this India does not suffer. You will be suffer if the war continue, inflation will be there, unemployment will be there, gas will be more high, and that's India will. India is the biggest loser in this war in the region.
The question that the young lady asked about media and how the media is shaping the narratives around the war. Obviously, President Trump, you said, posts 10 tweets in an hour, all of it could be self contradictory, but the world is forced to respond to it. Media is forced to cover it. The Iranians have also been playing the social media game very well. So, the narrative and the perception about this war, how is that being shaped by the communication around the war?
I think it depends on which part of the world you are. You know, I am from the Arab world. I understand there is always conspiracy theory, but as we said, I don't believe in conspiracy theory, nor I believe in coincidence in the Arab world. But the fact of the matter remains, this is a colonial power. They have an industry which is the arm industry. They have a giant company which dictate the foreign policy. So obviously, when you wanted to go for any war, you will definitely create a devil, demonize the country, and then go for invasion. America have taught us, go throughout the history of the United States, ever since their inception, 250, 300 years ago, how many wars, how many invasions they have done, how many countries they have destroyed. It's continued the same pattern till date. That is one of the issues, that we are a victim of this policy which is happening there. And the second part, and this I wanted to tell you, I think it slipped my mind on the
Communication.
the communication.
Yeah.
Okay, I was a part of the American. I was embedded with the American. I mean, the stereotype among the American soldiers was that we are going to remove a dictator. He is a killer. He has killing his own people. He used chemical. Blah blah blah. Colin Powell went to the United Nations and he said, "Look, 30 minutes he's developing the nuclear bomb and showing secret." And then after they invaded Iraq, he apologized. He said, "I'm so sorry. That was the worst day in my life." So building public opinion, actually speaking, is part of the mass deception they create to convince you that this war is important. For American citizens whom I have traveled to the United States, 35% of the Americans could not recognize Iraq on the map during the invasion. They don't know where Iraq exists. So what is public opinion? Public opinion for the West actually is that they will tell them, look, the American is in danger, imminent attack is on us, then we should protect ourselves, then we can bring you money to survive. An American living in 10 credit cards in his pocket, after this war and the economic sanction, he have one card, he cannot survive. So American internal policy is based on wars and occupying territories and destroying nations. I'm not anti-American, I'm just giving you history. I give you two charts. You make a two chart yourself on the map. Put Iran 300 years ago, put the US 300 years ago, and see how many war Iran attacked and how many war United States attacked. In 1921 till date, 38 million people killed by American wars. How many internally, externally displaced? Syria, my country, you remove him, you remove Assad, Joe Biden said it himself, we formed terrorism to remove Assad, and with the support of the Arab countries, with the money, with Turkey, which was turning on Pakistan, and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. So they use even terrorism as a tool to achieve a political objective. So I think the media responsibility of us, we understand, we are more educated than the rest of the world when it comes to explaining in logic what's going on.
My name is Akanksha and I am a second year student of mass communication. My question is Israel has never officially declared its border, and it has expanded its territory every now and then. And that the strategy of surviving to this, not defining their boundaries, can it be stopped by Iran being a nuclear power? Can that bring Israel to a point that they decide that yes, this is the point where we stop, and they finally define their borders officially?
Sir, I'm a master's student here at Bennett University, a student of journalism. My name is Vignesh, and my question was, since Sir talked about responsible journalism, in this day and age with social media as the primary news distribution platform, speed takes over accuracy, and there is a lot of fake news and misinformation, even malinformation that we see on social media. So, what is the strategy in which, in such tumultuous times, how can we as journalists stop this wave of malinformation and misinformation and give precedence to accuracy over speed?
Sir, my question is, what will be the impact of our investment that we are doing in Chabahar port, and what will be the impact of this war in our aims to improve connectivity to Central Asia? And my second question is, since we call ourselves the leader of the global South, why aren't we participating in the negotiations?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those questions. You want to start with the question about Israel not defining its borders, and whether if Iran got a nuclear weapon, that would...
Oh yes, I think this is quite important. First of all, there is fatwa in Iran by Khamenei, late Khamenei. He said there is no nuclear. Nuclear bomb is deterrence. It's not used in traditional. No country can use it except the United States. Used it in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. No other country have used it actually, except that we have been told that some tactical nuclear dirty bombs have been used of recently in Yemen, which I'm doing the investigation to find out. I'm writing a research paper for a magazine. I came across this. I think the important part of defining border, this is very important question. I was in a channel recently and I was just discussing with them. The lady from Israel was saying, oh yeah, one of our friends, colleagues, innocently asked the question that Israeli carry in their shoulder that the greater map of Israel, and they also have it in the Knesset. If you enter the Knesset, there is a map of Israel from Euphrates to Nile. So how can I declare my border? Then where the sympathy will be? You will be the sympathy that these people suffer because of Holocaust. You went all the way, they've killed 6 million, then you give them shelter. Chalo, Arab country is too big, they are too small, give them, we give them. Okay, but it doesn't mean you take my home, you rape my mother, you kill my father, you send me to the annex building, I am living in the servant quarter, then you block the road, then you block the water, then you don't let me, then now you're saying I don't want you. So it doesn't work. So I told her, the Israeli, I said, you don't have to be apologetic. Please define your border. I will be happy to live with you. I'm from Syria. Okay, let me give you another, which is people miss it in the television. Zakka. Okay, Hezbollah is a resistance party of Lebanon supported by Iran proxies, blah, blah, blah. Everything is there. Israel have the legitimate right to remove them. Fair enough. Then we have Julani of Syria. Abu Muhammad al-Julani, his name is Ahmad al-Shara. He's the current president. Of course, they removed Assad. They brought him. And if you follow the news of all the TV channels, you can see that Abu Muhammad al-Julani and his fighters were giving treatment by Netanyahu, shaking hands at Syrian occupied Golan in Israel, and making a makeshift hospital and sending them back. And he said, remove Assad. They remove Assad. Then he said, oh. So if you are friendly with him and you brought him to power, why are you occupying 680 square kilometer of Syria now? Okay, Palestine is a reason, Lebanon is a reason, but here is a friendly country. You destroyed the infrastructure, you destroyed our army, you destroyed our air force. They have not fired a bullet at you because you occupy 680 kilometers. And you know why? Because even Moshe Dayan, the defense minister of Israel, in 1967, in his autobiography, his daughter completed, the book is available. He said, we provoked the Syrians to go for the war because we wanted to occupy the Golan. Israel get 34% of the water from Golan. All right? So they discover oil in the Golan. 65 kilometers deep inside Syria south is the tributary of this oil. So Israel, under the pretext of terrorism, they took 680 square kilometers. So every time Israel is slicing the neighboring, take this part. So Lebanon, Litani River is the water also. We can stay at Litani. After 50 years, as the Israelis said, elderly die and youngsters are ignorant. They continue. So instead of you discussing 1967 border, you say 1973, 1982, 2025, 2026, you generation will forget. They say, come on, give them the land. I mean, an American president, ambassador of America in Israel, on TV channel, asked by our
Tucker Carlson.
and he asked him, he said, yeah, you know, it is written in their book that they have legitimacy to occupy from Euphrates to Nile. If that is the attitude, what do you expect me to do? If you slap me on my right, you want me to give you my left? No, I wanted my children to live peacefully in their land. So therefore, you don't define the border, you have to pay. You have to, because you have a colonial ambition. You are part of a colonial enclave program made in Israel. I'm not an anti-Semite. We are all Semite. We wanted to live. We don't have a problem with the Jew, by the way. Jews lived for centuries in the Arab world, like the Christians. But Israel is attacking Christians and Muslims. It's a part, you can see it on TV, spitting on the Christians. Even during this war in Lebanon, they brought down Jesus Christ statue, and they were spitting and cutting it into pieces. So if you wanted to turn it into a religious war, then you do not define the border, and there where we are. Now,
On the Chabahar question, and
Chabahar, India had a strong relation with Iran. I mean, I know that Iranian Persian language was in India for more than 400 years. Even 600 years was in West Bengal. Continued till the British Empire came. So India wanted to have access to the CIS country. They wanted to create an access through the market through Afghanistan, avoiding Pakistan. So they created Chabahar. They spent $500 million. But because of the American sanctions and threat, India shying away, not to take, not to take. And that is why they are giving more chances to the Chinese. But I think now India realized Iran is not a power that it can be easy removed. It's a power to reckon with. And I believe they will emerge as a strong from this war. If this President Trump does not go and obliterate the civilization, they will emerge as a stronger in this war, and India will revive its route into this. And I believe India is speaking of IMAC, which is also another route going through the Middle East into Israel and all. But the Egyptian came up with another option, which is called IMAC Plus. Nobody talks about it. I'm going to write an article on this, because IMAC Plus means avoid the disturbance area, which is Israel, and let's have another route to Egypt, through Aqaba into the Swiss Canal, go to Egypt, and then you have access to the African, Europe market, and you are coming from India. So that's a very beneficial for India to change. And I think India should not only think in terms of soft power policy, and India should also, like the Chinese. Xi Jinping came 2013 of the BRI, and he made it that route, and they have been working on it. But if you look at the countries fall in that BRI, you will find that the United States have been attacking each country one by one because they wanted to contain China. Ultimately, the war on this region is against China. Remember this and go and read, and you will understand better than me, because you have the future to know where America is taking this war to which level.
so I just want to answer Vignesh's question about, how do newsrooms fact check? Now, it's not just in this war. We've seen this over the last many years, including in Operation Sindoor last year. So lots of videos are put out on social media by users, and then there's pressure on newsroom editors and journalists to carry this because it looks real and it's believable. People are talking about it. So in a lot of instances, for example, last year when Operation Sindoor happened, lots of channels were running about Indian Navy reaching Karachi and F-16s being brought down and so on. So now what is happening is, because there's a lot of pushback internally from newsrooms, we have, for example, at least in the previous organization that I was working in, every few months, a set of 10 or 12 or 15 journalists are sent to Google and to YouTube, and they have these tools where if you get a video on social media, you put it through that software and it tells you if it is current, if it is old, has there been references of this video in the past, and so on. So these are new age tech tools that these platforms have developed, and I think it's become an essential part now of newsrooms. So I hope, at Bennett University, they're teaching you about these tools, because this is what you will face when you come into the newsroom, that there will be lots of stories, lots of videos floating around on social media. Part of your job would be to identify if it's authentic, and if it's authentic, then you can play it. If it's not, then you call it out. You do fact checks, you do, fake stamps and so on.
We are really proud to tell you that we have a Bennett Center for Fact Checking and Digital Integrity. There's an entire team of BCFDI squad present here. They constantly work on these reports on a weekly basis, and they do use these tools. We also do a lot of trainings in association with Google and their initiative called Adira, and that's how these students are also trained in these kind of tools.
Yeah, this is, I think, going to be a much in demand skill as you enter the workforce, as you enter newsrooms. They will want journalists who have the skills to identify, which video is fake, which image is fake, what is a fake story. And now increasingly with the use of AI, it becomes harder still, right? With AI clones and stuff like that. So that's something. Those are skills that you should try and get yourself acquainted with.
I think a very important point Zakka have raised about the fake news, which is now the challenge for all of us. In fact, we're facing it daily. We just sometimes we use forward some messages and all, and some friend write to us. He said, "Doc, did you check it?" I said, "Well, it just maybe it is a comic or something." He said, "No, a person of your caliber should check." So I'm so sorry. So I start thinking twice. But I tell you something. I mean, most of the corporate house who runs the media, by the way, and I'm sorry to say that there's no free media. I lost my channel because when I was with the MBC group and Al Arabiya, I was in Iraq and I was covering the war, and then the Arab Spring started, and they told me that either you take our line or you are out. I said I prefer to be out because I am an independent journalist. So I left the job, terminated my work. It's fine. I'm happy where I am. I'm proud because my children are proud of me as well. I have not sold myself. The point I wanted to say here is there is a self-censorship, which you will be in the studio and watching, and you know that this is, come on, it could be fake. You know what you can do. But let me give you an example which will also, in my country, Syria, when we had the war, the Arab Spring, we had a story run by a major Arabic channels in, I don't want to name it. It is run by two Arabic channels. One of them I was working with, the other one was a rival. You know it. The video was that two boys were killed allegedly by the Syrian security forces. Their dead body is on the ground, and people carried the coffin in their shoulder, shouting slogan against the government. Of course, who made this video made $300 from the channel. They paid him, and then the video was shown all over, and then CNN, BBC, everybody carried, but they never refer to it from their source. They say, courtesy, so-and-so courtesy. I watched the video. You know what? If you continue with the YouTube story, the two boys walk away after the videos. But the damage done. Everybody saw the first part of the story. The second part, nobody saw. So how do we, as a media person, justify a public opinion grown up against a country where everybody, the president of the United States said we created ISIS to remove the Syrian regime?
All right, let's have more questions.
So, a very good afternoon, sir. My name is Prabjot Kaur and I'm from Times School of Media. So, my question is that has the definition of power shifted from the military strength to the economic choke points?
Sir, I think my second question went unanswered, which
Oh, the
was
India is
which
little-
was why India is not participating in the negotiations, as we call ourselves the leader of Global South.
Sure.
And my sir, one more question is there a greater plan in this war? Because Israel wants to attack Turkey, and since Turkey is a NATO ally, it cannot attack directly. So, is there any plan for weakening the NATO by this war?
You want to take the India question? If India is the leader of the global south, why are we not?
I always, India, G20, BRICS, Shanghai, India as a leader. I always say India, even if you don't want it to be part of the two camps or the American camp, have the separate independent camp. And I'm sure many of the world will rally behind India in this. And only by giving words doesn't, serving the lips, doesn't really give. India has to take a strong stand on this, and I will continue this even if I have to be under trouble, but I still continue on insisting on this. I think India has to play, and India have lots of answer or question from the Indian public to answer it, and there has to be some sort of a plan. Indian government has to plan something that they can do. The military economy.
Yeah,
I
has
will
it
tell you.
changed? Yeah.
I will say there's this word. All wars in the world is because of the economy. There is nothing called war. There is no fun by going for a war. It's the war is being created because of the competition. You on your own home, you will be rich. You will think of buying cars. You will buy new house. You will expand. Then you will see your neighbor. You don't like it. You will take their house. Then you will have a fight. It's exactly the same thing. It's a greedy world. They wanted to see where the resources. There's a beautiful book written by Peter Haas, which is called The Cruel Oil. You should read it. This is a book interesting. How did the British Petroleum and the gas companies, how they discover, how they exploited the tribal rule between nations and then let them fight. We continue to steal and loot their resources. I think this is important. I will answer Turkey, but you can.
No, so on the economic choke point, I think one of the things, and I can share this, I was sitting with a minister last week. I can't name him because it was an off-the-record conversation. So the problem that India has, as many countries do, is if Iran starts choking the Strait of Hormuz and starts issuing a toll for every ship that passes by, nothing then stops China from tolling the Malacca Straits. 40% of the world's commerce passes through the Malacca Straits. And the country that has the biggest objection, the countries that have the biggest objection to that are Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, the countries in that region. So it's a matter of principle, he said to me, that you can't say, okay, let Iran toll the Strait of Hormuz, we can pay, it's a commercial decision, it has nothing to do with the government. So if ships want to pay, if commercial companies want to pay, let them pay, whatever it is. That's not our headache. But you can't, as a matter of principle or as a matter of position, you can't say free and open Indo-Pacific, which is where China is, and China is trying to impose its own rules in the Indo-Pacific, but a not free and impeded Strait of Hormuz. So it's a matter of principle, because tomorrow the Chinese can turn around and say, well, if they can toll, then why can't we toll in the South China Sea? So that becomes a problem for all countries. It becomes a problem for India, it becomes a problem for Japan, South Korea, Sri Lanka. So I think it's a matter of setting precedent, setting a bad precedent, which is why there is now this whole, the problem that Trump is also facing is, how do you get Iran to back down from the position of controlling the Strait of Hormuz without having to pay a price for it? And what is the price for it? So we'll see maybe in the next 2 days when the ceasefire talks happen. The Turkey question.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add there are other wars also fought. We just don't fight war on the field, on the ground. There are cyber war, there are economic wars, there are also, political wars. The countries are isolated. Sanctions has been applied in Iraq, for example, for 10, 12 years, and then the middle class of Iraq collapsed. So that's why Iraq Saddam Hussein was removed. Similar fashion they tried in Iran, 2006 till date. They are also, because of the harsh economy, there were demonstrations in the street. So there are many ways of fighting the war, even cyber war now. And I think the next generation may face the fighting in the sky. I mean, it will be in the sky, the war in the space. It's not going to be fought in the ground. And that's the dangerous by nuclearization of the space is also another way. Turkey, I have written an article in the Outlook recently, last month. It was Turkey Next. Why you must be wondering why Trump, who is the new Messiah, as they call him, Jesus Christ, he attacked the Christians and the Vatican. You will be surprised. I mean, many people of you, how many people knows why he attacked the Vatican? Can anybody give me an answer? Just give me an answer. There's no answer. He wanted the Vatican. They called the envoy of the Vatican to the war rooms in the United States, instead of sending him to the foreign ministry, and the Hexit and the American war cabinet told him that, tell the Pope that they should support our war. It's a crusader. See, the way they wanted to give it the different angle of a religious war, because the Zionist Christians, evangelist churches in the United States, which is around 40 to 50 million followers, they believe that the Messiah will appear again, as much as the Jew believe that the Messiah will come. they agree, both of them on this. They differ only that Israel say ultimately he will be a Jew, but the Christians say he will be a Christ. So the Pope refused. The Prime Minister of Italy, she was also very friendly with the Trump, but suddenly she was against, because see, Christianity in Italy is a matter of pride. Even the Prime Minister take office, he has to go to the Vatican and pay his respect. So this is, imagine you and you are abusing and accusing the Christians, the Vatican and the supreme leader. It's a very dangerous development by the United States. So they wanted to give it a religious angle to the fight. That's why Israelis are selling to the Zionists in the United States that this is the war, because this is where we have been promised this land, and we have the legitimate right to take it. That is, it is a land without people, but it is unfortunately people with the land live for centuries there. How can you claim that this is your part of the land when we know that civilization existed even for 10 centuries?
So on the Turkey question and whether it's a big threat to NATO, I think the biggest threat to NATO is Trump. Trump doesn't want NATO. I mean, why do you think the biggest American allies, Britain, France, why are they not part of trying to, get Iran to lift the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz? They're not sending their ships. Macron made it very clear, Starmer made it very clear that they're not going to send British ships or French ships to enforce the removal of this blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, because they don't think that they want to be seen fighting a war on Trump's side. So I think the biggest threat to NATO is actually Trump. It's not this fault line between Israel and Turkey.
Yeah, I think one more thing on Turkey. If you remember the Prime Minister visit to Tel Aviv and meeting with Netanyahu, he also discussed with him. First, he discussed, because Netanyahu for the last 40 years he's selling to the world is the Shia evil axis from Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. Houthis these are the axis of the Shia, want to destroy and throw Israel to the sea and obliterate Israel. Now he's speaking of the moderate Sunni, a new axis being formed. So as I said, they wanted to give it a religious angle to the fight. It is anti-Islam, is no more Sunni or Shia. It is an anti-Islam where Israeli Prime Minister wanted to take the war to that level. And that is why they wanted the Christians to support the Crusaders as much as they wanted to support Netanyahu's point of view of conquering the whole region.
All right, one more round of questions and then, okay.
I'm Pooja Rastogi. I'm currently pursuing masters in mass communication from the university itself. My question is, NATO didn't join the US to mitigate war. UN remains silent in preventing wars. And how do you see global alliance could help in maintaining peace and betterment? What new security alliance can be set up?
So I want to know that as a media student, I am very interested to know that as we talk about ethical and responsive media, in conflicts like this, do you think that the media can remain neutral? Like in this sensitive situation, or is it necessary to take a side? And if the media cannot be unbiased, then what should be the responsibility of media be?
What is the role of a media in times of war?
I think the role of media will remain the same. You should not take side. You are a neutral. I cover war from Jaffna to Libya. I know it's an Arab country. I will be more sympathizing with the Arab world. I was embedded with the American in Iraq. When I was doing the coverage in Iraq, my studio was headquartered in Dubai. They were cursing me and shouting at me. He said, you don't react to the sentiment of the street on the Arab world, that it is an anti-American. I said, well, I am with the American troop 100 kilometers deep inside. I'm not supposed to tell you where I am, but I can tell you that we are already deep without any resistance. No, they're fighting, they're killing. So I didn't take side. And that was one of the things that they want you sometime to go with this. I was covering the 26/11. I'll give you, because I think it's lunchtime. I was covering the 26/11 in Bombay. And I was sitting, there was nothing. It was just people inside the hotel. We were sitting outside, sitting behind the cars and all. One of the correspondent of one new channel came that time. Suddenly take the mic and start hyping and screaming and saying, what is coming? This is people attacking and we are seeing the car coming and there is coming. And I got up, I said, my God, did I miss something? Where did I do? Then after she finished her story, I said, young lady, come here. What did you do? She said, sir, they are calling me from the studio. She said, hype it, hype it. It is good that we will have TRP, we'll have good. So the people sometimes react to certain things that look, you look funny. You know, I was saved in Iraq. This is, I just shared it 2 days ago. I was given an award by an Indian foundation. And I was in Iraq during that war. And I used to say, they never send me to a Miss Pageant or Miss World. I'm in trouble zone. Wherever there is a war, Waiel Awwad is there. Zilzal, earthquake, Waiel Awwad. Political, instability, Waiel Awwad. From Japan, because it's at 40 years, and you people give my life, and also 45 years now, everybody knows my age. So 40 years I have been all in war zone. I understand. So when I was with this, it was shocking me that I said, okay, but I cover. When they captured me, the Iraqis, they took me to captivity. They thought I'm an American because we had the American coalition forces flag. I was anti-chemical wearing. I was wearing the helmet with the goggles, with also the bulletproof jacket. And my blue eyes doesn't work in the Arab country. So they said, oh, he's an American. And there was a bounty in my head. I was to be executed. In fact, my book was coming. It's going to be a factual movie, by the way. And then they said he is. I said, I'm an Arab. He said, they took me to one room where hundreds of fighters were there with all the bulletproof jacket, suicidal belt. And they said, well, we want to kill the American. You came with the American. You are American. We want to kill you. All the guns pointed at me and my engineer and my cameraman. Three of us, we were in the car, and we had equipment of $350,000 because those days we didn't have the phone satellites and all you can go. So we had to carry all the equipment. And I said, no, I am a Syrian. You are Iraqi. We are together, brother. He said, no, you are American. You came with the Americans. Suddenly, out of blue, from among the 100 people in the room, two-person raised his hand. He said, he's Waiel Awwad. I saw him in Kargil. I saw him in Afghanistan. I said, look, I'm a journalist. See, I'm not an American. So he said, still, but you came with the American. So the story ends here. They confiscated my tapes, all my tape. I had a problem with the American soldiers. In fact, they said, you know what he told me? He said, we saved you. You were to be, the chemical was to execute you, but we saved you because we saw your reporting. We saw all your videos. We saw you are arguing with the American, asking them difficult questions. Why you are putting this Iraqi soldier in the open, tying their hand with the plastic, sun, and you don't give them water, anything. And they are surrendered to you. They were the people surrender. How can you keep them like this? So all my question was this, and then I was very lucky that the American used to give us food. And those food, there was a sag where there's a charcoal and there's the rice in it, uncooked rice. But if you pour water on the bag, on the plastic bag, you pour water, this become hot, warm, it cooked the food. All the Iraqi prisoner, poor fellow, didn't know. So they were chewing raw food. So when the American doesn't know, I said, what are you doing? So I start interviewing them and they asking me, what happened? What happened? What is it? I sang. My cameraman was taking the photos. I showed them how to do it. And all of them, they were quite happy that they had a good meal. So he said, you saved your skin. We didn't kill you because we saw you. You were reporting. You were not taking side. So don't take side no matter what. Even if you are in India, I tell you, this is very dangerous. I was during the Kargil war. I was during the insurgency. I know certain cameramen, some people were faking news that there are people in the demonstrator, people in this, and they followed them. He said, why are you faking the news? You don't have to fake. You report reality, stick to the truth, accountability, transparency, and check your reporting. That is the most important part. And one final word I wanted to end here. You always, whenever you go to any assignment, study the place where you're going. Educate yourself culturally, literally, anything about the people there, you will save your skin. I was captured in Iraq. I was detained in Afghanistan. I was shot in Kargil. I was run away from the army in Jaffna. I managed, and only my family suffered because I felt at the end of the day, none of the corporate media I work with worth it. My life is worth than any kind of a media. So save yourself from any kind of adventure because we all in television like to be on the spot, like to show, like we wanted to go. At the end of the day, your safety is the most.
All right. Can we have a round of applause for Dr. Waiel Awwad? Thank you very much to this lovely audience here at the Bennett University. Thank you.